Anyway, I'm going to bring you over to that people. Really picture.
So you see, there you go, look, it's changing.
We light this chalice as a symbol of our movement. Its flickering light symbolizes our questions and our doubts. Its steady light, our tentative personal answers. Its burning presence, our love and fellowship. So may all parts of our lives, the doubts, the assurances, and the fellowship be honored as with our chalice. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Cross Street Chapel's Sunday service. I'm grateful for your presence here, for those who joined us in person, as well as those who are following online. And I hope that whatever it is that you're seeking at this time and celebration, if you're seeking joy, if you're seeking a place to shed some tears, a chance to hear a few words of wisdom, or to connect with one another or with the divine, whatever it is that's brought you here, I hope you'll find it as well as a warm community. So we had our chalice lighting with those words from Simon Hardy. We turn to Alfred Lord Tennyson for our call to worship. These will undoubtedly be known by many. It's from his poem, his epic poem, In Memoriam A.H.H. Perplexed in faith, but pure in deeds, at last he beat his music out. There lives more faith in honest doubt, believe me, than in half the creeds. As a place of worship without creeds, I think we hold on to that recognition that there is a place for doubts within faith and religion, and that place can be here. So however you find yourself, whether filled with faith or filled with doubt, like before, I hope you'll find whatever solace or comfort you need. And a chance to sing as well. We picked some really fantastic music and hymns today, recognizing it being St. Patrick's Day, that we'll have an assurance of sort of Irish music and some Irish words as well. The one notable change, which I'll point out when it comes to it. But let us begin with Dorothy Sengas's We Gather Together in the Green Book, hymn number 18. Once more affirming our gathering, our joy and celebration, the challenges of life as well. So let us recognize all of that with a time of prayer. These are the words of the Reverend Erica Hewitt. As we enter into worship, put away the pressures of the world that asks us to perform, to take up masks, to put on brave fronts. Silence the voices that ask you to be perfect. This is a community of compassion and welcoming. You do not have to do anything to earn the love contained within these walls. You do not have to be braver, smarter, stronger, better than you are in this moment to belong here. You only have to bring the gift of your body, no matter how able your seeking mind, no matter how busy your animal heart, no matter how broken. Bring all that you are and all that you love to this hour together. Amen. And please read with me our covenant, which is printed in your order of worship and will appear online. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and to listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. Amen. Who here, when you were little, was afraid of the dark? Anyone willing to sort of own up to that? I genuinely can't remember, though. I'm sure there was a point in my life where I felt that. And maybe there's some very early memories that we have chosen to forget. And it's sometimes helpful to be reminded of those periods. And so we turn to that with the wonderful words of Lemony Snicket and these beautiful illustrations of John Klassen called The Dark. And like some of us here, it is about a little boy who was afraid of the dark. And his name was Laszlo. Laszlo was afraid of the dark. You can see him playing with this beautiful sunrise or possibly a sunset right behind him. The dark lived in the same house as Laszlo. A big place with a creaky roof, smooth, cold windows, and several flights of stairs. Sometimes the dark hid in the cupboard. Sometimes it sat behind the shower curtain. But mostly it spent its time in the basement. All day long, the dark would wait in a distant corner, far from the squeaks and rattles of the washing machine, pressed up against some old, damp boxes and a chest of drawers that nobody ever opened. At night, of course, the dark wood went out and spread itself against the windows and the doors of Laszlo's house. But in the morning, the dark would be back in the basement where it belonged. Laszlo would peek at the dark every morning. "Hi," he would say. "Hi, dark." Laszlo thought that if he visited the dark in the dark's room, maybe the dark wouldn't come and visit him in his room. You can see here he is, cuddled up at night. He's got a flashlight. You say probably they're scared of the dark, and there's a night light to keep him. Who here had a night light growing up? I'm very curious about this. I'm not sure if it's one of those sort of American things, or if there's some British element, possibly. Thomas very often has a sort of red light, but it's not quite, these sort of like really small ones that you just plug in straight into the socket. But so Laszlo has a night light. And there it is, protecting him from the dark at nighttime. However, one night, the dark did visit Laszlo. "Laszlo," the dark said, in the dark. The voice of the dark was creaky as the floors of the house, and as smooth and cold as the windows, and even though the dark was right next to Laszlo, the voice seemed very far away. "What do you want?" asked Laszlo. "I want to show you something," said the dark. "In here?" looking in the closet. "No," said the dark. "Here?" behind the shower curtain. No, said the dark. "Downstairs." Downstairs? Yes, said the dark. In Laszlo's living room was the biggest window in the house. Laszlo looked out at all the dark outside. Above him, the roof creaked, and he closed his eyes. Now the dark was all Laszlo could see. No, no, said the dark again, not there, down here. In the basement? Asked Laszlo. Yes, said the dark. Laszlo had never dared come to the dark's room at night. Come closer, said the dark. Laszlo came closer. Even closer, said the dark. You might be afraid of the dark, but the dark is not afraid of you. That's why the dark is always close by. The dark peeks around the corner and waits behind the door, and you can see the dark up in the sky almost every night, gazing down at you as you gaze up at the stars. Without a creaky roof, the rain would fall on your bed, and without a smooth, cold window, you could never see outside. And without a flight of stairs, you could never go into the basement where the dark spends its time. Without a cupboard, you would have nowhere to put your shoes, and without a shower curtain, you would splash water all over the bathroom. And without the dark, everything would be light, and you would never know if you needed a light bulb. Bottom drawer, said the dark. What? Bottom drawer, said the dark. Open the bottom drawer. And he opens it, and you can see that's where they keep their light bulbs. Thank you, said Laszlo. You're welcome, said the dark. By the time Laszlo got back into bed, the dark was no longer in his room, except when he closed his eyes to go to sleep. The next morning, Laszlo visited the dark in the basement. Hi, he said. Hi, dark. The dark didn't answer, but the bottom drawer was still open, as it looked like something, and it looked like something in the corner was smiling. The dark kept on living with Laszlo, but it never bothered him again. The dark. Lemony Snicket. So you have a chance to share the dark points in your life, or the bright points, your joys and your sorrows, your trials and your triumphs, your fears or your celebrations. If you wish to light a candle, please come forward, and if you have a few words to say, come to the microphone, so those who are using the loop system, those who are listening online will be able to hear you. If you are online, please type into the chat box and we will read your message out. You can, of course, always light a candle in silence, if you so wish. And if you prefer to hold your life in your heart and wish to remain seated, know that your presence here is enough. So I'd like to light a candle for Nick Palin, who comes to some of our services. His partner, Andy, died earlier, sort of late last year, and we had a memorial service for him here yesterday. It was great to sort of see the love that people had for Andy and for Nick, to hold them. They were married here back in 2018. So do keep Nick and his family and friends in your heart and prayers. Thank you.
Last Sunday was Mother's Day, so we were invited round to our son and his family for an evening meal. And we were all quite amazed to see that Robbie, our grandson, 16 years, hardly ate anything, and he normally has an enormous appetite. All that night he was sick. Monday morning, Nick, our son, rushed him into A&E. He was teetering on the brink of a coma, and it turned out he had diabetes type 1, and they shoved him quickly on an insulin drip, which he has been on for 4 or 5 days, but now he's been taught how to inject, which he will do for the rest of his life. So none of us knew he had diabetes, none of us knew why he was losing energy, why he was lacking in enthusiasm for things. So we hope he will soon be out of hospital. He's still in there, and I'll be going to see him this afternoon. And Robin and I saw him on Thursday. So that's our Robbie.
So today's 11 years since my dad passed away. So I just wanted to light a candle for him.
For all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. We turn now to our next tune, number 191 in the Green Book, To Worship Rightly. So now let us sing in loving celebration, hymn number 191.
Amen.
Our reading today was recommended and will be read by Adam.
A reading from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Every living thing comes from the mother of us all. If we can understand the mother, then we can understand her children. And if we know ourselves as children, we can see the source is her. And well, if your body dies, there's nothing to be frightened about. If you keep your mouth shut and stay inside, then you'll live a long time. If you blurt out what you think to everyone, then you won't last long. Value littleness. This is wisdom. To bend like a reed in the wind, that is real strength. Use your minds, but stay close to the light, and it will lengthen its glow right through your life.
Thank you, Adam. Let us return to a time of prayer with these words of the Reverend Elizabeth O'Shaughnessy Banks. Whenever life looks easy, know that it is more complex than it seems. The simplest, most profound pieces of art have exquisite planning. The melody line rises to the surface because it has been played out in the composer's mind and the notes arranged and rearranged until all the intricate connections are designed for clarity. We see the web, the end result, strong on the front porch in the morning sun. We did not see the tireless spinning and weaving through the night, the near miss of the bat's flight or the casual brush with the cat's evening prowl along the rail. And what we think we see is much less than what is, what lives in the depths. There is always more than what meets the eye. And so we ask for patience when we would wish for everything to be clear. We ask for insight when we can see no further than our own needs. We give forgiveness when others look into our lives and see no deeper than the surface of themselves reflected there. And we are humbled when we find we do little better and seek ourselves in others as well. In the quiet, we reach inward to that still place. And so let us enter into the quiet, into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. Thank you. We come now to our next hymn in the Green Book, number 152, traditionally known as the Breastplate of St. Patrick, been translated by Cecil Francis Alexander. I chose this hymn once, I think, about 8 years or so ago. I forget if it was here or if it was elsewhere, and it was a disaster. The tune is very challenging. If you have a challenging hymn, challenging music, it helps to have a short hymn with a lot of verses, so you can learn it. This is a long hymn with 2 verses, which adds to the complication. So what we normally do in this circumstance is we choose a different tune, which is fine, and it's something. It sounds weird to say I was trained in it, but it's an element of sort of recognizing elements of leading worship. So, unfortunately, it is there aren't many other tunes to choose to replace it with. One, though, that we have sung here before that many people will recognize is Ye Banks and Braes. I don't know whether it is a bit of an affront to have words of St. Patrick tuned with a Scottish hymn song, but it fits and we know it well, and so if we just sing it with gusto, I'm sure that will be great. Thank you. So hymn number 152, I Bind Unto Myself Today.
Glorious songs like this.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. We could have also sung it to Jerusalem, but I thought that was taking it a bit too far. A couple weeks ago, I spoke about the Steve Martin film Leap of Faith. Martin plays a charlatan, a fraudulent faith healer who travels around the Midwest scamming people. Although he touched on a number of elements, one part of the discussion was the role of emotion in our religious worship. I wondered whether we wanted to find a way to explore our emotions more. And to make it clear, I'm not arguing for big tent revival atmosphere. But, as I always hope, we are able to explore our authenticity within these walls. And that should include our emotional being, our emotional authenticity. It's why I start the service saying this can be a space for laughter as well as tears. The historic perception of our faith as being all head and no heart. Whether true or not in today's church, this perception does, I think, have long arms that reach through history. This isn't to try and to create some emotional turmoil, but simply to honor and recognize what might already be here. Anyway, the rabbit hole that introduced me to Leap of Faith continued, and deep within this warren, I found myself reading Sinclair Lewis's book, Elmer Gantry. Written in the 1920s, the book follows its eponymous anti-hero's journey as he ascends the American religious industrial complex. He starts out as a law student, more lascivious than legal, and eventually finds himself the darling of his ministerial co-students, training and eventually undertaking the responsibilities of a minister. All this, it should be noted, happens without him having to forsake his pastimes, shall we say, which we'll consider unmentionable from the pulpit. Gantry is, in some ways, a complicated character, sometimes cynical, sometimes naive, sometimes, though rarely, conciliatory, and oftentimes belligerent. He can whip a crowd into a frenzy, have them under his control, but he rarely demonstrates such restraint in his private life. The whole book is set out as somewhat of a satire on American religion, and particularly the sort of revival, the sort of fundamentalist religion of the 1920s, of which Gantry is both a product and a producer. But today I won't be talking about Elmer Gantry. For amongst the other people in this story is one Frank Shallard. Shallard is set up as a foil to Gantry. Where Gantry is emotional, Shallard is learned. Where Gantry is devious, Shallard is devout. And where Gantry has confidence and assuredness, Shallard is filled with doubt and uncertainty. So much so that he is continuously doubting not only his role within the church, but its very existence. Despite these persistent and unwelcome thoughts, he still serves his congregation as best he can. And until his doubts eventually break out into the public sphere, he is considered a good and honest minister. This steadfastness, however, and noting the satire in the book, was not enough to keep him in post once his doubt became public. Frank Shallard's fate is doubly tragic, as his religious institutions are unable to accommodate his doubt. But he is a good character, challenged by the question of suffering, a perennial challenge of faith. I do not know if his doubt makes him a good and compassionate person, but the two seem as intertwined, one to another, as Elmer Gantry's cynicism and hypocrisy. Faith is often presented as belief, as trust, as placing conviction in what is unknown, unknowable, or perhaps at the more extreme end, perhaps something that is even counter to the facts. At its best, it can be a hope that guides us through dark times. But when abused, it encourages people to assume the mantle of holy warrior, judging the world and its people and meting out punishments. It may heal, but it can equally injure. This alone should give us pause over unquestioned faith. In The Agony of Christianity, the Spanish writer Miguel de Unamuno explores how faith may incorporate doubt. To doubt is to live, to struggle for life, and to live by struggle. A faith which does not continue to doubt is a dead faith. What then is the meaning of doubt? Dubitare contains the same root as duellum, a struggle. Doubt presupposes the duality of combat. I mean here the doubt of life, the life struggle. We have been trained by the Catechism to believe in that which we have not seen. That is the basis of faith. To believe in that which we see and that which we do not see, that is reason and science. And to believe in that which we will see or will not see is hope. And it is all summed up in belief. I affirm and I believe insofar as I am a poet or creator, by gazing back into the past, digging into the resources of memory. I deny insofar as I am a rational being and a citizen, face to face with the present. And as a person and Christian, I doubt, I struggle and agonize by casting my eyes towards an unrealizable future, towards eternity. Unamuno's description of doubt being a struggle has a long history. We hear of Jacob in Genesis wrestling with the angel. Jacob is alone, knowing that he will meet his estranged brother, whom he had wronged, when morning comes. The future for Jacob can go many ways. Perhaps he is doubting his choices, doubting his strength, doubting the whole enterprise of reconciliation. He doubts, but carries on, and finds himself, his family, and descendants all blessed. Frank Schallard embodied as well, I think, those words, and the words of Alfred Lord Tennyson that drew us into worship. Perplexed in faith, but pure in deeds, at last he beat his music out. There lives more faith in honest doubt, believe me, than in half the creeds. Tennyson's poem is an epic memorial for his friend Arthur Hallam, who had died aged 22. The poem places Tennyson's faith on the block as he travels through grief and faces honestly the questions of existence and suffering that plague us in the dark night, in the dark of night, and the dark night of our soul. He reflects on Arthur, and through his guiding is able to live a better life. The stanza we have considered today came at a point when Tennyson is arguing with someone who insists that doubt comes from the devil. He brings up Arthur, saying he knew someone who, through their doubt, knew faith. We can hear the passion Tennyson has for Hallam, saying he is pure in deeds. He may not understand belief, but he leads a good and honest life. And because his doubt is honest, he is, perhaps unknowingly, rich as well in faith. Later, we learn the consequences of Arthur's doubting. He faced the specters of the mind and laid them. Thus he came at length to find a stronger faith his own, and power was with him in the night, which makes the darkness and the light, and dwells not in the light alone. Through his struggle, through learning and reflecting on his experiences, Hallam was able to grow in faith. And this was not the fair weather religion of those who preach only happy thoughts and material wealth. This is a faith that will survive the storms, that will be present through the night. A faith that can coexist with doubt, for they rely on one another as the tension of a string relies on its ends pulling away. Facing our doubts, fears, and insecurities strengthens us for those times when such challenges cannot be avoided. In our story today, Laszlo was afraid of the dark, but when his nightlight went out, he has to venture into the dark to find a light bulb. What is our light bulb? What are we willing to travel into the darkness for? What would make us step into the unknown, the risky, the doubt-filled world? If we never give ourselves over to doubt, we may never know. And without doubt, as without darkness, we might not know when we need a light bulb. In the end, Laszlo discovers darkness to be a friend. After all, it was darkness that led him to the light. And I hope for us, doubt will in some way strengthen our faith. Not necessarily the faith of creeds and dogmas, but the trust and optimism necessary to carry us on through our days. Amen. A few notices before we sing our final hymn. If you need to speak with me, you can approach me. I'm very approachable. I don't bite. I might bark on occasion. Or you can write to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. We're grateful as well for volunteers, for people to assist in reading, greeting, providing flowers, assisting with the IT and the tea and coffee. And do we have anyone to help with tea and coffee today? Oh, thank you, Sonia. Sonia has picked up a lot of mantles today, so thank you so much. And there is a sign-up sheet as well if you if you do want to volunteer, but you maybe want to give yourself a couple weeks' notice, as well as us as well. We have our AGM next week, the 24th, after the service. There's a bring and share meal, so do sign up if you're joining us, and if you are able to bring something, and if you can only bring yourself, that's fine too. There will be plenty of food for plenty of people. The AGM is a chance to hear about the chapel's past year, to hear about plans for the upcoming year, a few business things like approving the accounts and the next committee. And if you are a member and would consider serving, please do let me know. We're grateful for any donations that can assist the mission of the chapel. You can donate online at justgiving.com/crossstreetchapelmanchester. You can email me about setting up a standing order, and there's a retiring collection if you're here in person, along with envelopes if you're a UK taxpayer. And if it is your first time joining us, as we often say, your presence here is enough. We're grateful for that, and not necessarily any financial gifts. So thank you for those who've joined us, who've stepped over our threshold today for the first time. Our Friday recital is the 29th, so next week from this Friday, featuring Hugh McKenna on piano and Tyler Hay on piano. So please do join us for that. Are there any announcements or notices? Yes, Anne. Thank you. I think I know what you're going to say.
Would you like to say?
I presume it's about the guard. Yes.
We'll meet after coffee.
Thank you. Yeah, so after the tea and coffee, for those unaware, on Cross Street, outside of our Percival suite, which is where we have the tea and coffee, we have a series of planters. And they were set up when St. Peter's Square, all those years ago, was being remodeled, and we lost the official peace garden. So we had a pop-up peace garden, and it served us for many years, even since the introduction of the official peace garden now in Lincoln Square. It served us for many years, and it is showing us very much its age. We have new planters, which should be delivered in a few weeks. But we're at a point now where we need to sort of clear up that space in preparation. So Anne has very graciously brought some tools. And are you assuming the position of manager for us?
I guess so.
Thank you. Anne will lead us with the trowels and the spades. So please do join us after the tea and coffee as we clear out the old planters in preparation for the new. Are there any other announcements from the congregation? Let us then sing our final hymn, number 151, Be Thou My Vision, by Eleonora Henrietta Hall, hymn number 151. For helping to set up, for greeting, for the tea and coffee that we're about to enjoy, and for these gorgeous flowers. And thank you to Adam for the reading today. And thank you to all of you for creating and sharing in our worship. We close with these words of Jane Addams. What, after all, has maintained the human race of this old globe, despite all the calamities of nature and all the tragic failings of humankind, if not faith? Faith in new possibilities, and courage to advocate for them. Amen.